going on, friends? Coach Jerry here. And today in this video, me and Binks, we're going to talk to you about your physiology and how it affects your ability to manage your triggers. We're going to talk about the spectrum from wherever your starting point is. We're going to show you the spectrum from total annihilation, hopelessness, feel like crap, nothing's working, all the way to the opposite end of the spectrum where we start to maximize things. And in between there is the proper sweet spot for you to have your best life. I hope you find some value in it. And if you do find value in this video, please smash that like button, hit the subscribe, and share it with anybody that you think might benefit from it. All right, sit down, have a seat, or stand up, relax, and enjoy the show. Let's go. All right, guys, as you may have noticed, a lot of my content as of late has been focused around triggers. And that's succinctly because as I work with more people, as I work with myself, it always funnels down to a very common thing, and that is our triggers. That is our emotional response to things that keeps us stuck. Now, this gets labeled in many different ways throughout the self-help world. Some call it executive function or executive dysfunction. Some call it procrastination. They even break it down to procrastination styles. We have EQ, emotional intelligence, and the like. Now, while all of those are very much a part of the game, they're very important. They're speaking to a lot of different people who are all at various points in their personal development, and they're somewhere on this spectrum that I'm about to share with you. And all the while, most people, probably including the coach or the influencer, don't understand this dynamic or where they're at and where their clients or followers, audience are at in the process. I'm going to make it really simple for you today. So basically, the spectrum goes from annihilation all the way to maximization, and somewhere in between is optimization. Now, a big common theme in my content and a lot of people's content is trauma. Trauma creates our triggers. The more triggered we are, the more unable we are to manage those triggers and make those triggers our superpower, the closer we veer towards annihilation. Okay? Annihilation can lead to nihilism. And when we get here, it's really dangerous. When we get to nihilism, we get apathetic. We wonder what's the point. And why do we wonder what's the point? Because we're not aware of this spectrum. We're not aware of where we really are on here. And we're following people that are anywhere in between optimization and maximization. Okay. So your fitness content or your approach to getting healthy, fit, strong might be through an influencer like a David Goggins, who I love David Goggins, but you got to be aware of the spectrum. Okay. Who's totally on the maximization end of the spectrum. And then you might be getting your health advice from a holistic health guru. And they just live in this optimized zone. So that's just one example. Now, if you're not careful, this fitness influencer that's always encouraged you to maximize your potential is going to pull you way away from the optimization zone, particularly if your starting point is somewhere around here in the annihilation area. Okay. Now, this annihilation, optimization, maximization, this formula, this spectrum holds true in each of your total bodies of wellness. So this spectrum holds true in your foundational motivations, your ability to know and pursue your purpose, your ability to create happiness on a daily basis without checking out and dissociating. The maximization content fitness influencer isn't worried so much about optimization, so they might be encouraging you to eat boxed foods, processed foods, protein shakes, calories in, calories out. Whereas this optimization influencer, that holistic health guru, may or may not venture into the maximization zone very often. So they might be on cruise control as well. So you're going to be following these people's shadows. Whatever they're resisting is going to be your resistance as well, because they're not you. They don't know you. Again, when it comes to how much movement you need and why for your goals and your purpose and what you need in life, this maximization content influencer and this optimization content influencer, they're going to have different approaches to the game. And since, as I've mentioned in previous videos, previous blogs, whatnot, the closer we are to this annihilation stage, the more likely we are to be in a state of like dependency, not in our highest self. And so we're unknowingly looking at these as like a parent figure. Tell me what to do. And so we get really confused. And that adds to the feeling of nihilism, draws us more towards apathy. So that's an example of how not being aware of this spectrum can keep us stuck. And it all comes basically, all of this stems from our triggers, and our triggers stem from our trauma. So that's why it's really important and really simple, really, to get down to how to dismantle your triggers, make friends with your trauma, and dissolve the energy that you create that keeps us stuck, that causes poor executive function, procrastination, self-judgment, and shame, and ultimately nihilism and or apathy. Isn't that right, Binkers? Binks is waiting for this part. Here you go, Binks. Here you go, buddy. It's his favorite toy. There you go. Go get it. Go get it. There he goes. All right, we're going to start with a lot of people's starting point, and I'm hoping that this is not where you're at any longer, but this may resonate with you as a starting point of where you're at once. Okay, so we have trauma in our life. We're not sure how to process it. It creates various triggers. These triggers unknowingly lead us around life. Maybe we have some bad influences in our life. They lead us astray. Annihilation. What does annihilation look like? So this is the first phase. Phase one, annihilation. Let's call that A and H. What does the stage of annihilation look like? Maybe we're partying. And partying, obviously, social connection. It could be a part of a healthy lifestyle, even if you're consuming alcohol very minimally. So long as you don't get addicted and doesn't run your life. Don't recommend it though. Partying, we have poor food choices, bad sleep habits, sedentary movement behavior, no purpose / faith. And what is really partying? Partying is checking out, and that leads ultimately to attracting a circle of the same. Okay, you end up surrounding yourself with people that also have no purpose, maybe no faith, live a sedentary lifestyle, have bad sleep, poor food and water choices. So this is a perpetual loop that reinforces itself. And when we get stuck here long enough, we become dependent on all this because we think it works. We become dependent on these people. We cry on each other's shoulder. We all bitch about our bosses together. We bitch about how terrible we feel. We bitch about our politicians and the like. So eventually you start waking up to this not working. And then there's a little bit of dark night of the soul where you've got to detach from that. You got to realize this is a shadow I've created and I need to snap away from it. But you're connected to or attached to a lot of these, particularly this. Each one of these phases is a great representation of the amount of self-love and acceptance that you employ. This all goes back to, obviously, your traumas, your parental influences, and your belief in and relationship with God and the afterlife. All right, so that's stage one, annihilation. And then we wake up and we say, I got to get healthy. So stage two is getting healthy. So since this word healthy is very ambiguous, what does healthy mean? Generally what happens is, if we're not aware, we pursue healthy implicitly. We know that we are wanting to optimize ourselves. We are wanting to go to optimization. So what does that usually look like? Maybe we count calories, but we're still eating processed foods because that maximization influencer told us to. Pre-workouts. And again, not that any of this can't be a part of optimizing. Some processed foods are fine once in a while. Pre-workouts, if you're managing your hydration and your detoxification, they're not going to kill you. And then we maybe take on a gym membership or CrossFit box, maybe Orange Theory, something like that, maybe yoga. But if you're in a really sedentary state, if it's been a long time since you've moved properly, maybe you've never moved properly at all of these are going to be more towards the mission end of the spectrum. And again, this is an indicator of our self-love and acceptance. So why would we do that? Why would we go from nothing to maximize? And if any of you guys have ever been to or if you have a gym membership at a local gym, this will probably resonate with you. The people that look like they're dying in the gym, the people that look like they're just giving it all. I'm not saying they're the hardest worker or doing the most weight or the most reps, the most sets. The person who looks like they're just killing it in the gym without fail is I'm Back Billy. I'm Back Billy is that guy that's been sitting on his butt for years and he remembers how fit he used to be. So he goes right in there and he tries to mimic that in the gym. So we punish ourselves with our fitness routine because we've been naughty. Again, that's a level of self-love and acceptance. So we go from nothing to way too much intensity in the gym, maybe a CrossFit box. And there's a lot of great CrossFit boxes, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of ones that will progress you well, they give you great support, what have you, but they don't know your physiology when they write that WOD. The people supporting you don't know how you're going to feel tomorrow morning. They don't know how much sleep you're getting. They don't know any of that, okay? Orange Theory, same concept. Yoga, while yoga is wonderful, fascinating, it's beautiful. Yoga's great. But you might need nothing but yin yoga for a while. But you're going to go into some vinyasa flow or some other form of combat yoga, Americanized yoga, when maybe a 4-week program to just unwind your body is what you need right now. And then we know part of getting healthy is good sleep. So maybe we start taking some sleep aids. Now we have a sense of purpose, but our sense of purpose is to get healthy, which is an ambiguous sense of purpose. So this results generally in feeling better. We still haven't done much about our triggers. And maybe we stick to this plan for quite a while, year. And every once in a while you'll run into I'm Back Billy and I'm back Billy makes a great transformation, a great change. But that is not the typical story. Typically what is, even if these people stick with it for years, 5 years down the road, you will not see much of a physical change. You'll see an immediate drop of maybe 20 pounds. This person might be 50, 60 pounds overweight. They might drop 20 or 30. And that's proof of concept for them. This is great. This is awesome. But they're still 20 or 30 pounds overweight. And fast forward 5 years down the road, they will still be 20 or 30 pounds overweight. Why? Because they're just in this ambiguous get healthy zone. And really their goal becomes to maintain this state of feeling better than annihilation. And what's keeping them from going to the state of feeling better to optimizing their situation? It's these triggers and lack of awareness. It's these triggers that keep their ego resistant to information that comes across their social media feed. A guy like me talking about holistic health. So I trigger the holistic health people because I'll post videos of me doing, 20 reps of deadlifts or something like that. And I also trigger the maximization people because I'll post videos talking about emotions and anxiety. I might even talk about the inner child. So if you remember our spectrum though, does that surprise you? I'm influencing people to be in the optimization zone. So when I'm talking about emotions, I'm talking about triggers, I'm talking about inner child, I'm appealing to those people that are in the annihilation phase. And what I just talked about is resistances. We're resisting the truth. Why? Because of attachments. Part of us are attached to that holistic health guru or that David Goggins. And that is just our triggers, putting us back into our shadows or our blind spots and reminding us of our level of self-love and acceptance. All right. Then we go to phase 3. We were optimized. So think of optimization as balance in the body, physiology, / harmony. So this is the sweet spot. And if we're not careful, if we never go into the maximization zone while we're optimized, pull ourselves out of optimization to go into the maximization zone, we'll be stuck here. We won't level up. So your optimization is wherever you're at when you're in a state of annihilation or close to annihilation. You could take that physical body and create an optimal state. You could have the perfect day, no matter how bad you are. You could have a perfect day. You could wake up, you could do some breath work, you can hydrate, you can set your intentions for the day, pray, get some movement in, maybe sauna, cold plunge or cold shower. Don't eat any processed foods for the day. Do something that makes you happy. Connect deeply with the people you love. Get to bed on time. Have a great night's sleep. You'll wake up the next day feeling optimized. You'll be balanced physiologically. You'll have harmony in the body. Now, it hasn't been a habit yet. It's not tied into a deep sense of purpose. And your optimized for that day will be different than if you make that habit a reality for years on end and regularly schedule times to pull yourself into the maximization zone. Strength training is a great example. So you take that annihilated state that we talked about, you give yourself one perfect day, you're going to feel optimized, you're going to feel stronger than you did yesterday, but you're only going to be as strong as you can possibly be with that current state. Without ever pulling yourself out of the optimization state into the maximization state, you won't get stronger, you won't get more conditioned than you can possibly be with that current physiology. And this is where David Goggins comes in handy. If your training only takes you to the edge of what you can do today, and you don't step outside of that, do one more set, do one more rep, then your baseline will not change much. Now, if every time you train, you're stepping outside of what you can do today, one more set, one more rep, the maximization zone, you will in the short term increase your optimization, but long term, you will be moving backwards. And I say that with an asterisk because yes, obviously your long-term state, optimal state will be higher than where you started, but the rate at which you progress and the gains that you incur will be much less than if you did it wisely. So what's optimization look like? Clear purpose. This is where we talk about top down and bottom up motivations. What's the difference? Top down motivation, white hot motivation. This is where we get sparked with motivation. This could be from a motivational speaker. Maybe we listen to a podcast. It could be a reel. This is why influencers are great. Influencers are amazing, but it's up to us to be aware of the spectrum. What's the bottom up motivation? This is the not so fun stuff. This is where discipline comes in. Now, if we have discipline without purpose, it just feels like abuse. But purpose, big picture purpose. This is what I call the deathbed scenario. This is when you're laying on your deathbed. What are your grandchildren saying? What are your great grandchildren saying? Are you dying from a metabolic disease that was created due to poor lifestyle? Because the way we live and the mental, emotional, physical, spiritual body that we manifest and that we create is what our kids and our grandkids see in themselves in the future. They have our genetics. In the case of our children, they likely lived with us for all of their formative years in their early adult life. So that's what I call deathbed scenario. If we have a good foundational motivation and we have good sources of top-down motivation, discipline becomes less and less of a chore, becomes a reward, and we create this, again, perpetual self-feeding loop. You can read Atomic Habits by James Clear. He's got a lot of wonderful information in there, but in my opinion, this right here has completely been left out of the equation. Without this, the habit stacking, the calling it out, making the bad habits almost impossible to do and make the good habits impossible not to do, all of that just becomes discipline and a chore until it becomes solidified in our nervous system. So if we can program the nervous system to seek out those habit structures or those habit hacks, it feels much less like a chore and much more, oh, I found a tool to make my big picture purpose a reality, which turns that into top-down motivation. So we have a clear sense of purpose. We have bottom-up, top-down motivation. We love ourselves enough to do things that make us happy. We've dismantled and dissolved our trauma triggers, which makes us open and available for others. Why? Because they're not a threat. We're not in self-preservation mode. We're going to be open and honest with them because we're not overly attached to any given situation. We know that what we're saying has come from a place of love, and if they get triggered, we know how triggers work, and we know that we just gave them a gift of shining a light on their shadow or their blind spot. And if that's blinding to them, then that means their eyes have been opened. That's just an example. What else are we doing? We see food as fuel and regeneration. And because we have the bottom-up and top-down motivation, big sense of purpose, deathbed scenario is clear, we become attracted to real food, pasture-raised, organic meats, grass-fed, grass-finished, organic vegetables, organic fruits. And we also know that eating that type of food is better for the planet. So we become attracted to that source of fuel, and we become averse to the other things, like your processed foods, your toxic foods, and the like. Because we've dismantled and dissolved our trauma triggers, we're dealing with less anxiety, less anger issues, less useless emotional energy, so we sleep better. Not only that, we're doing it without sleep aids, which have a downstream effect. They stay in our system. And instead of having sleep aids, we have good sleep hygiene. And then our movement becomes more spiritual and physical, which is a healthy balance, a harmony of our soul and our ego. So you got the holistic health guru that tells you to chant mantras. And there's nothing wrong with any of this stuff, guys. It's all part of the program, right? But I'm talking about they're maximizing. So in other words, there's a lot of rhetoric out there about kill the ego. Really? Why? Without ego, there's no love. Ego is duality. Ego is separation. Be one with the universe. That's cool. Be one with God. Awesome. But we do have tribe. We do have relationships. We do have love. We have children. And it's your ego that loves them. So we want the ego, but we want a healthy ego. And how do we do that? The ego and the soul keep each other in check. It's a yin and a yang. We're all familiar with the yin and yang. All right. And lastly, we'll talk about the maximization. So if we're unaware of all this dynamic, like I mentioned earlier, we might overeat because we have a core driver or a root belief that we're not enough. Everybody's got one. Yours might not be not enough. It might be I'm unworthy. Maybe you have a powerless or vulnerable root. Maybe it's inadequate, what have you. But we overeat because we just got to have more muscle. I got to be stronger. How much is enough? Now, where these become healthy is if maybe you're a competitor. Maybe that's your job. Maybe that's how you're paying for your college. Maybe you had a college scholarship to play football. And you literally do need to put more muscle on. And you literally do need to get stronger if you want that scholarship. And that scholarship is leading to higher education, which is in line with your bigger purpose, your deathbed scenario. Where it's unhealthy, so let's say the positive of that is job or sport is leading to purpose. Now, what's the negative of that? The negative of that is not enough. I'm not enough. So this one is situational. This one is perpetual. So this one, not enough. So I overeat. I get more muscle and stronger. I'm just more. I'm still not enough because you're not enough has nothing to do with your muscle and strength. So I overeat again, put on more muscle, more strength. Still not enough. And it keeps going. And then we get injured. Now I'm really not enough. And that last example goes the other way too, right? We can undereat if we have body image issues and what have you. 20-day water fast, something like that. Okay. So yeah, we'd overtrain probably, right? Now there's a difference between overtraining, like in the clinical setting, where you actually get rhabdo. Rhabdo is when your body starts actually breaking muscle down, really high level of oxidation in the body. You start turning your tissue into toxicity in the body. Okay. But overtraining in the non-clinical definition would take away your ability to live your life normally, right? Take away your ability to be a good father, be a good husband, be a good business owner, manager, or employee. Now, again, all these can have a plus and a minus. So the plus and the minus of this. So the plus of this, again, if you have job or sport that requires you to be high level of physical conditioning and performance, you're going to have to do this periodically. You're going to have to overtrain. It's what we call overreaching. So the positive would be overreach. Overreaching is when we go into the overtraining mode for a specified period of time so that we can increase our ability to output strength, conditioning, a combination of them. So we might overreach to get to a position where we can manifest our big picture purpose. The negative would also be not enough. Okay, we could overstretch / mobilize. What would be the positive of the overstretch? Again, that's an overreach on your stretching and mobilizations, because maybe your phase of overtraining and part of your recovery phase, you're going to stretch more than is at optimal for your body at the time, so that you can incite a demand in the body to lengthen the muscles, to affect the sarcomere count in your muscles, and let the nervous system and the fascia know that you are asking for increased range of motion. Again, overreach is periodic, it's scheduled, it's intentional. What's the negative of overstretching? You get weaker and you create instability in the body, which can lead to injury. Another one, too much cardio. Positive of that, increased conditioning. So this will increase conditioning for this athlete, add variation and stimulus. What's the negative? It's going to increase corticoids or stress hormones, which catabolizes the body, keeps weight on. Now, if we're not aware of how to dismantle and dissolve our trauma triggers, this is going to be another trigger. And the less we've dismantled and dissolved our trauma triggers, the more resistant we are to the truth or trying something different, and the more likely we are to stay in that state of ambiguous healthy and just feeling better. Better than what? Better than shit? Awesome. If I serve you cat food for dinner every night and then I give you a banquet TV dinner, you'd be like, dang, this is great. Keep them coming. Still on Maximize here. So in our parasympathetic activity, sleep, introspection, meditation, all that. That's one thing I forgot to put on the list for optimization. Yeah, you do want some inner work. You want some meditation, shadow work, really looking at your resistances and your blind spots. If we're maximizing that, what might we do? We might meditate too much. Maybe we pray without moving our feet. Quakers say you got to pray and move your feet. It's okay to ask Jesus to take the wheel, or Buddha or Brahma or whoever you resonate with. But a big part of that whole system is to remain open to the signs and the opportunities that come your way so you can put the work in where it needs to be put in. And if we're overtraining, we're overeating, we're probably, on the other end of the spectrum, not sleeping well. We might lay down for 8 hours. How much deep sleep am I getting? Am I dreaming? Can I remember my dreams? What happens if we have too much meditation? The positive side of that is if I really need to figure something out. Let's say optimal meditation for you is 20 minutes a day. Maybe you're going to kick it up to an hour a day with a journal beside you for a week. And you'll be really intentional before you go into that meditation. Be intentional about finding an answer, guidance, what have you, on a particular obstacle that you're having a difficult time overcoming. And that's why prayer is important in meditation, in my opinion. The negative side of that is we dissociate or disassociate. We become ungrounded because we're always in fantasy land. Positive of that is if we're overly grounded or rigid, to be optimized. Pray without moving our feet. What would be the positive of that? Is sometimes we just need to sit and listen. Listen to the voice that has no words. Get your downloads. Why would we get in that state? Because we think we can do it ourselves. Negative, praying without moving our feet, is we're in a childlike state of dependence, really. We turn the Heavenly Father into daddy. Grow up, son! And then not sleeping. There are very few benefits to not sleeping, but one positive I could say would be, like right now, I've been heavily immersed into building content, online workshops, and the like for this new app that is going to be something for my existing and past clients, as well as future clients, to make their time with me 10x more valuable Now I'll put the time in now, so it costs me nothing by the time that they have access to it. But it also is going to be able to be rolled out into a corporate wellness program that's going to be connection-based and based on being effective as opposed to saving on insurance rates. So I've had a lot of days where I'm working way more than I would like to. And if I'm working more than I would like to, then that is keeping me wound up longer throughout the day because I still go to the gym. I'm still doing my meditations and what have you. And that's why I'm over in the try to find an hour of meditation a day type thing. But that's an example of pursuing a big picture purpose to be able to serve and deliver the world with what I've been downloaded in me as my purpose through the Lord. This is where the Lord, the universe, creator, has blessed me with the gifts that I have. Instead of keeping them selfish to myself, I'm going to share them with as many people as I possibly can. So it's tied into the big picture purpose. So this is what we call big goal. So I have a big goal right now that requires a lot of my time and attention, more hours than I can give it in 8 to 10 hours a day, on top of my coaching and taking care of myself. That could be one positive. I'm still getting actually really good sleep. It's just not every night. I've been traveling for my son's football games and whatnot, and that's all part of the deathbed scenario as well. The negatives are obvious. Crap hormones. Triggers are louder. Now you can have your triggers dismantled, but the less sleep you get, the more difficult it is to dissolve them when they do come up, when they do arise. You'll also start craving things like processed foods, simple carbohydrates, caffeine. Our connections aren't as deep because we're not really available. Now, if we're being honest, a lot of these maximized traits, negative traits or negative outcomes, are really similar to the annihilation phase, aren't they? And this is why people can grow apathetic. Eventually, they've experienced some sort of injury. So I work with people in the area between pain and injury, which is where they're starting to snap out of the annihilation phase. And they're generally in some variation of the ambiguous healthy phase. But if they think this is the answer, all this maximized stuff, and all they're experiencing is the same feeling of annihilation, except they're a little stronger, a little fitter, look better in the mirror a little bit, that can lead to injury, ultimately apathy, if not nihilism. All right, so last thing we're going to cover is when we maximize purpose or happiness. So all these are categorized, right? We've got our 4 cornerstones of wellness. We got our happiness, we got our diet, we got our movement, and we got our quiet time, we got our introspection, sleep. So if we maximize happiness, purpose, what can develop? We can become selfish, egocentric, overwork. We all know people that miss their kids' sporting events because they got to work. If you work somewhere that won't let you say, I got to go to my kid's sporting event, what's your deathbed scenario look like? Positive and negatives here. Well, the positive part of being selfish could be if you're coming from a place of being, you tend to be sacrifice self for others. The negative obviously would be narcissism, but the positive would be if you've been overly immersed in your spiritual body. Negative would be no spirituality. This is the I can do it on my own guy. Overwork, negative would be, or positive would be improve financial security for you and your family, knowing that there's a point to where there's enough for you and that you will no longer sacrifice anything else in the pursuit of income, a deathbed scenario. And the negative would be, I'm not enough, or I'm unworthy, or I'm vulnerable and powerless, I'm incompetent, inadequate, whatever yours is, your root, false core. So not enough leads to more. How do you know if this is you? This person generally has 5 figures in the bank account, 6 figures in the retirement, with a trajectory of being 7 figures or more, and they've got to close that last deal, they've got to attend that Zoom meeting, what have you. And that person is generally operating under some sort of shadow. That's just the way it is. They haven't even bothered to ask for the time off. Or they've asked for the time off and been told no and haven't thought real deeply about that. Again, on the egocentric, maximizing, they think their happiness and their purpose comes with their abilities to generate either strength, aesthetics, adoration, or earnings. All right, friends, I appreciate you for sticking along till the end of this video. I hope you found some value in it. You might be asking yourself, well, what do I do with this information? What do I do now? The first thing is get a clear understanding of where you're at right now in the process. And then from there, figure out what it's going to take for you to be optimized. Like, what is optimal for you? Do you need more time in the maximization zone? Are there some things that you need to back off of a little bit? And how do you know what is your purpose? What is your deathbed scenario? Get that clearly established. The app that I'm about ready to release, it's got all that laid out. It's going to show you how to find your core values based on your big purpose. It's going to help you find your purpose, help you find where you're at, and give you tools and resources to get there. That'd be my recommendation for next step. And as always, you can always reach out to me direct. I'm more than happy to help you. Got a workshop series coming up. Like I said, my app is going to be workshop based. You'll be able to fully immerse yourself in whatever these 4 critical areas are of health: mindset and purpose, happiness, diet, movement, quiet time, introspection, sleep. At any time on your own pace, there would be group and community support for you as well. Or you can have one-on-one relationship with me. Be happy to guide you through the process, whatever you need when you need it. I'll leave my contact information in the show notes. Again, if you found value in this revelation and I hit this from an angle that is new, fresh, and resonates with you, do me a favor. Hit that follow, hit that subscribe, hit the like button, and share this with someone that you know can benefit from it. All right, guys, until next time, it's been a pleasure. It's Coach Jerry signing off. Peace, much love, and live well.